Welcome in to another new podcast from the CoatingsPro Interview Series. I'm your host, Ben Dubose, news editor with the AMP Publications team. Today, I'm joined by John Salvadore, product expert with PPG Architectural Coatings and director of portfolio management at PPG. John, thank you for taking the time to join us. How are you?
Great, and thanks for having me on. I look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. At CoatingsPro, we speak for the contractor. We tell the stories of contractors who go out in the field and apply coatings and lining systems to try and protect assets from corrosion. Not just aesthetics, that's part of it, but certainly the corrosion protection is what we're really interested in telling the story of and helping these contractors protect assets that are so valuable in a lot of areas. But we do want to talk to manufacturers from time to time as well, because of course it's manufacturers like PPG that are putting these technical systems together that can provide so much functionality. Certainly aesthetics, you want to make products and assets look better, but they also serve a technical purpose as well. And so that's where the corrosion protection comes into play. And so when we talk about what contractors do out in the field, it's inevitably linked to the properties of the coatings that they're dealing with that are made at the manufacturing level. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today with John Salvadore, product expert with PPG Architectural Coatings. John, I think a good place for you to start, if you could, just tell our listeners a bit about your career in the paints and coatings industry and your current role with PPG.
Yeah, well, again, thanks again for having me. And again, my career took a change when I joined the coating industry. I was with consumer packaged goods for a number of years and learned from a lot of great companies such as Procter and Gamble, et cetera. And I've been in the paint industry now for 22 years. And, I really joined the industry. I brought with it a bunch of category management expertise and, really started on the sundries categories. But since then, I've worked through a lot of roles within PPG. I've talked to just about every customer that there can be. I've called on our big boxes. I've talked to pros. I've been responsible for our professional business. And I've worked in both DIY and pro side of space for architectural paints. And so now it's just a natural progression into my new role as director of portfolio management. And in this role, again, I have a team of portfolio managers, good professionals, and they develop products that meet the needs of our customers in paint, wood care, and adhesives and sealants.
So what feedback do you hear from the marketplace in terms of not just end users, but the applicators that we represent at CoatingsPro? What do they need? And how does that influence your product development and the properties that you're seeking to develop as a manufacturer?
Yep. And I guess the one thing I can always say is that, over the 20 years or so, one thing hasn't changed, right? We have to supply quality products. It has to meet the needs of the customer and the projects they're working on. We know that the professional painters need products that are, again, we keep on hearing more about sustainability and the more their needs for sustainable products. And that's just not through lower VOCs, although very important. It's also about having, great coverage. It's about longer lasting paints. It's about touch up because, again, what you really want to do is extend the useful lifetime of the products that they're using. And then you also have, what we'll call multifunctional type products, such as, the Copper Armor product that you've heard about, where, again, it's not only an excellent paint in terms of coverage and colors, which is what a lot of people are looking for, but it also has the ability to kill viruses on painted surfaces using the Corning Guardian technology. Again, a multifunctional product. And when you say, how does it influence your product development? I can't get into every detail on what we're doing for products, but I will tell you, based on learnings and what we're hearing from our customers, we're going to be launching a new product in the future. It's actually a reformulation of an existing product that is used widely in commercial areas. One of the things that is happening is that we've dropped it to zero VOC, past all of our Green Guard emissions controls. We have many MPI classifications that were done. And this is just one example of how trends will influence our product development now and in the future.
You touched on this a bit, but what are some examples of the types of technical properties that you can combine? Because when we talk about end users, there's certain aesthetics that they're looking for. When we talk about contractors and applicators, there's certain workability features that they're looking for. What are some examples of ways that you can, I guess, combine the best of both worlds into some of these new products that you're working on and putting out into the marketplace?
Let me talk a little bit about this useful lifetime, if you will. So for example, there's some products that we have out in the marketplace today that, again, extend the painting life cycle for products. So for example, on exteriors, we have PPG permanizer products that, again, highly durable, again, reduces the number of times that you need to repaint, will last for years. You have a product like, PPG Ultralast, which is a low VOC interior product, which again, obviously, reduced emissions on the indoor, highly scrubbable, highly washable, against a bunch of household stains. There's really no need to, repaint. You take a look at, how you make products today for touch up or for, again, coverage to ensure that, your customers or our customers are limiting the amount of times about having to come back and repaint things. It's just about the useful lifetime features of a given product. And I think that's really important when you really start thinking about how do we want to be a more sustainable company and how do we help our contractors in the future to make their jobs much easier than it is today.
Yeah, let's talk about the environmental trends, because I think that's something that most people expect is only going to accelerate over the coming years. What are the ways in which you guys are blending some of these performance requirements with the sustainability desires from the marketplace? Because I'm guessing that you guys anticipate that that's only going to, remain in place and perhaps accelerate even more over the coming years.
Yeah, well, again, I think one of the things that we do is that, we take a look and we have a product life cycle and a product roadmap process that we follow annually. And really what happens is we take a really deep dive into the market trends that are happening. And we build this product roadmap to really help us in planning what our next steps are going to be for the future. It's about a continuous improvement. And again, we take a look at this roadmap. We have products that will launch in 2023 and beyond, all the way through 2026. And what we're looking at in every product is really with an eye towards sustainability. It's really about finding ways to improve the productivity of our painters and continuously innovating to bring products that the customers are looking for. And again, we talked about multifunctional paints, and again, this is, PPG has been in business for 140 years. We bring that industrial experience together to help provide our painters with the, things that they need to improve upon their businesses. And, one of the products I'll call out here is just recently launched, our Glidden brand, and just launched a new floor and porch paint, which really is heat reflective, really. So again, it really protects the feet and the paws of your puppies, if you will. And again, it's just, again, another way where, PPG looks for ways to do something to help improve, our products and also make it for our customers to be able to sell and use our products in various ways around their projects.
The last couple of years, there's been a lot of challenges related to the supply chain and procuring raw materials. So when we talk about people that are actually looking to apply your paints and coatings, be it contractors, a do-it-yourselfer, whoever it may be, how important is it to build a relationship between that person or group and you all as a manufacturer? And speaking just from your perspective as a company that supplies coatings, what challenges, but also what opportunities are out there in this market environment when it comes to, I suppose, building relationships with the people that are actually trying to put these coatings on a given asset? Because I'm guessing, given the challenges of the last couple of years in terms of the consistency of raw materials, building those relationships is only more important.
Yeah, I guess the one word I'll say about relationships is they're critical. When you look at our customers, right, they trust us. They trust us to have the quality, they trust us to have the performance, and they trust us to have the value that we provide in all of our products. And, a lot of things that we say around here a lot is really a say-do ratio, right? And that's what you have to really do with paint. We need to live up to the promise that we say for our products and ensure that they are available when our customers need them. And then, just regarding the supply chain, it's been a very difficult 12 to 18 months. And, fortunately, the raw material situation is improving and, products are increasingly available to meet the needs of our customers. And really what we need to do as PPG and for our customers is that make sure that we have the product at the right place at the right time. And with the improving supply chain, we are able to achieve that.
So I mentioned earlier that at CoatingsPro Magazine, we try and speak for the contractor. And these are the folks that are going out into the field and trying to both aesthetically beautify, but also protect so many of these valuable assets, this infrastructure that's out there, and so on and so forth. Obviously, what they need and their challenges is going to vary a bit depending on what the specific coating technology they're using is. But are there any common themes when it comes to their questions, their pain points? Obviously, they want to do what they have to do to protect the assets. In many cases, they want to achieve the desired warranty from the manufacturer. So I'm sure you're in dialogue with many of these contractors from time to time. Are there any trends when it comes to, I suppose, their questions or their challenges? And if so, how do you work with them to overcome those?
Yeah. Well, a couple of one of the things that comes to mind is that, our contractors are still looking for ways to make be more productive, right? And there is an old adage out there that time is money. And one of the things we've done from a service perspective, right, because the paint is critically important, but we also need to be able to supply them. So again, I'm not sure if you've seen or heard about our new PPG Paints app that really delivers efficiency for our customers. And again, that all gets back to making them more productive, where they can order product 24 hours a day through our PPG Paints app, which helps keeps our professional customers on the job, and while we're processing, delivering paints to their job sites. And, again, when it comes to relationships, I think it still all comes back to quality and performance and value that we have. Again, we have to provide our customers what's expected and to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the performance requirements of their projects. One of the hardest things for a contractor, right, is to be called back on a project. To that end, we always have to listen to our customers. We got to get their feedback. We got to understand their needs. And, that is one of the things we do is we're continually reviewing our product's performance. We're taking a look at both internal, external benchmarking. We put our products through extensive third-party testing. And again, we use this information along with the market trends to develop the product roadmaps, not for just new innovations, but also for continuous improvement. Very critical for our painting customers, whether you're DIY or pro.
With regards to those types of projects, how important are the other aspects that typically come prior to the actual application of your coating? Because I know there's a lot of people that think about actually putting that material on a substrate, but there's so many steps that come before that with regards to obviously a contractor or a do-it-yourselfer, whoever it may be. They need a plan to use the product safely, but there's also surface prep, having that substrate ready to accept the new coating. There's choosing the right equipment, be it for surface prep or how you're actually going to apply your coating from PPG or some other manufacturer. There's moisture mitigation, there's instrumentation that you can use to make sure your environmental conditions are appropriate and what they should be. Just talk from your perspective as a manufacturer about how important it is, not just for an applicator to focus on actually putting that material on a substrate, but also making sure that his or her ducks are all in a row when it comes to all the other steps that are needed many times before you actually put that coating on a substrate.
Well, Ben, nothing that you talked about really can be taken lightly, right? First things first is that, making sure that you're prepared for the job, and safety is of utmost importance, right? We all want to go home and be safe. And so really preparing, making sure that you understand what your surroundings are, what are the items that you're going to need to be safe, whether it's the right scaffolding or the right ladders, or there's, space to be able to work. It's really critical, right? From a surface prep perspective, again, whether you're building new home construction, you don't want to have drywall dust on the wall and paint over it. Or, again, if you're doing a residential repaint, again, you want to make sure the surfaces are clean and dry so you have a secure application with the paint that you're putting on. And, again, and you take a look at, the application too. You can buy a great can of paint and use a cheap brush, and that job is not going to look as good as you would hope, right? So, one of the things that we've done as PPG is we've taken a look at a variety of brushes and applicators, and take a look at spray equipment and the right size for tips. to be able to take a look and see what is the best application characteristic for the paints that you're using. And I think, it's one of the things that has helped some of our contractors. We're saying, well, hey, if you're applying, our copper armor, PPG copper armor, what is the best application for that? How would you apply that? So we've got tools for our professionals that they're able to use to try to select the right applicator for the right project and paint.
So I know you're not going to give away the farm when it comes to the things you're working on internally for the future, but broadly speaking, are there any major changes that you're expecting to the marketplace over the next few years? If so, what potentially are those, and how are you all trying to adapt to what those changes might be?
Yeah. Well, again, we all know what the impacts of climate change has been, right? We're seeing it every day in the weather that's happening around, the U.S. And so some of the things that we're looking at, obviously, we touched base on some of these, is really the importance of sustainable products. We got to make sure that we are taking care of our environment as well as taking care of our customers. The ability of products to be multifunctional, like we talked about with our copper armor, or for products that have a longer useful lifetime, again, release less volatile organic chemicals into the air. And also, adding efficiency through services such as our digital online ordering with the quicker fulfillment with the PPG Paints app we touched about, because it's, again, paint is really important. Efficiency is really important both. So PPG will combine the best of both worlds by giving you, the product that you need in the most efficient way. And, again, we think our new PPG Paints ad is a new viable service model that can help our professionals in the long run.
To a contractor or applicator listening that may have questions about applying your coatings, what's the best way as we wrap up that they can learn more from you guys? Should they call? Should they go to the website? Just talk about what resources are available for any of our contractors or applicators listening that may want more info from you all, as far as, I suppose, A, what coatings you have available, what makes sense for a given job, and B, once they've chosen the coating, basically how they should apply it, and getting some of those FAQs, those frequently asked questions, resolved and answered from you all as the manufacturer.
Yeah. Probably the easiest way to do that is really through our PPG Paints website. We have all the information of the product and services that we offer. Give details. You can find all of your technical data sheets. You can find, application characteristics of the product, what type of substrates to use them on. So a great place to start is the PPG Paints website. And then what I would also recommend to professionals is really to try the PPG Paints app if they haven't tried it yet. We have sales reps, all over the country that would be more than ready to help them get started. And I think one of the things that it'll really do is it'll help guarantee that pros receive the right product to the right place at the right time. And again, hopefully this will make our customers much more efficient with their time, stay on the job site while we worry about how we get the paint to you in the time you need it.
Sounds good. Folks, he is John Salvadore, product expert at PPG Architectural Coatings and director of portfolio management for PPG, longtime veteran in the paints and coatings industry. John, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And folks, that will do it for today's episode. John mentioned the resources available from PPG for us at CoatingsPro. You can go to coatingspromag.com, or you can go to amp.org. That's ampp.org for resources from our association. That is, of course, the Association for Materials Protection and Performance, best known as AMP. With those plugs out of the way, we'll wrap up. For John Salvadore, I'm Ben Dubose. Thanks as always for listening, and please come back soon for another new podcast episode from the CoatingsPro Interview Series.